Yes, you can press.
I think you can unmute us in the meeting.
Okay.
We are ready.
Thank you, Comrade. Thank you, Comrade President, leadership of the ANC. We're coming to the end of this meeting. We're going to ask the President to give us the concluding remarks. Comrade President, Comrade President,
National Chairperson, Comrade Gwede Mantashe, Deputy President, Comrade David Dabede Mabuza, officials of the African National Congress, TG Paul Mashatile, former President Thabo Mbeki, former Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe, members of the National Executive, leadership of the South African Communist Party and the Congress of South African Trade Unions, leadership of the ANC Women's League, of the ANC Youth League, of the ANC Veterans League, leadership of SASCO, ministers and deputy ministers, metro mayors and leaders of SALGA, deployed colleagues and comrades and friends. I extend my greetings to all of you this afternoon. We've come to the end of our Lekgotla, held at a critical point in the history of our country. We received the news of the passing away of the leader of the National Freedom Party and former Deputy Minister, Ms. Zanele Kamagwaza Msibi, with great sadness. Our deepest condolences are extended to her family and her loved ones and her party as well. The movement further extends condolences to the families and loved ones of all persons who have passed away since our last meeting. And we include in this Comrade Kebi Mapatswe, who passed away and was buried just yesterday, where the national chairperson represented us. We've also received and taken note of the decision by the Correctional Services, National Commissioner, to release Comrade Jacob Zuma from incarceration on medical parole. We welcome this. We've heard that he is not well, and we'd like to wish him quick recovery as he is restored back to his home to be with his loved ones. NEC Lekgotla provide an opportunity for the leadership of the ANC, the Alliance and broader democratic movement to discuss the challenges facing the country, to assess the effectiveness of our plans and programs, and where necessary, to change our programs to meet the needs of our people. In the course of the last 3 days, we've taken a critical, in-depth look at the implementation of our electoral mandate. We have identified the areas where progress has been made and areas where there are clear shortcomings. We have reaffirmed that the central task of the moment is to create jobs and more jobs and more jobs. It is also to reduce poverty. The COVID-19 pandemic has dramatically deepened poverty, inequality, and has increased the numbers of the unemployed people in our country, especially young people. In addition, crime, corruption, and the erosion of state capacity have contributed to a sense of insecurity among South Africans and has weakened our ability to respond to the challenges facing our country. As we intensify the fight to overcome COVID-19, it is therefore imperative that we undertake extraordinary measures to rebuild and transform our economy and to improve the capacity of the state. The depth of the challenge we face and the extent of the deprivation in our society means that we have to act with greater purpose and focus so that we can stimulate growth in our economy and create employment opportunities as a matter of great urgency. This Lekgotla has agreed that we must do more at a much faster pace if we are going to address the pressing needs of our people. We undertake these tasks at a difficult time for our movement as we grapple with the challenge of fundamental renewal and rebuilding. We do so in full appreciation and understanding that the situation in the country and in the state of our movement have given rise to some frustration as well as disillusionment. This is not the time for any of us to throw up our arms in despair and total frustration. This is the time to recommit ourselves to building our country and to act with decisiveness. Our challenges are not insurmountable. And if we work together and with the determination that is required, we will surely succeed and we will prevail. A strong and united ANC is critical for the effective functioning of government, and it is also crucial for social cohesion throughout the country. While the movement is facing challenges, this Lekgotla has resolved to intensify our efforts to strengthen unity and renew our organization. And the good thing with this Lekgotla, as with many others, is that the discussions have taken place with the full participation of our allies, of all our leagues, and our student formations as well. The world has been living with the coronavirus pandemic since the beginning of 2020. Restrictions on movement and social interaction, and sadly, the high numbers of infections and loss of life associated with COVID-19 have caused immense trauma to our society and our people. With the arrival of COVID-19 vaccines, we now have within our reach the means to achieve greater freedom of movement, more economic activity, and less restricted social interaction. Vaccinating most adults is a crucial component to the success of our economic recovery, and the ANC government and various other sections of society are intensifying the campaign to urge every eligible South African to be vaccinated. We must be more proactive, and the movement must mobilize a wide range of stakeholders and influential voices in society to assist government in consistently highlighting the safety of the vaccines and their efficacy in protecting people against serious illness and death. In addition, we must continue to adhere to the non-pharmaceutical measures of wearing masks, maintaining physical distance, ensuring proper ventilation wherever we are, and continuously washing our hands regularly. Developing countries continue to pursue various strategies to acquire the means to produce COVID-19 vaccines. And this also has included the proposal that our country, as well as India, made to the world, and more particularly to the World Trade Organization, that there should be a waiver of aspects of the agreement of the trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, which is called TRIPS, that this should be allowed to be waived so as to enable developing economy countries to be able to produce their own vaccines. And this would allow South Africa and countries of the South to build the necessary capacity to produce medication and other consumables, as well as to develop domestic manufacturing and job creation capacity. The pandemic has revealed the extent of poverty and deprivation in our society in much starker terms than ever before. It has also become much clearer that, like many other parts of the world, South Africa, in dealing with this pandemic and the effects of this pandemic, must become bolder, it must become more innovative and creative in its approach to economic policy, to the interventions that we need to take to address the pervasive levels of poverty and inequality. Many countries around the world are relooking their policy positions, and in some countries, those policy positions could have been very conservative. They are looking at them, tweaking them, changing them, with a view of aligning them with what needs to be done to address COVID-19 consequences and to rebuild their economies. The same must obtain with us. And obviously, we are different from many other countries. We will have to craft what we need to do in accordance with our own circumstances. Working with our alliance partners and social partners, more broadly, the ANC is determined to accelerate the implementation and deepen the impact of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan that we announced last year. We will continue to implement structural reforms and promote local productive activity to grow our economy more quickly and stimulate more investment and employment. The increased role of the digital platforms in our economic lives is expected to persist even beyond the pandemic, as more and more social, economic, governance, and supply chain interactions move to the digital sphere. Enabling universal access to broadband should be the approach to the release of the spectrum and other digital technologies, so that the development of the digital economy that has proven to be so beneficial to a number of economies around the world, that it is inclusive and sustainable in our own country. Government must find mechanisms to fast-track South Africa Connect project in a cost-effective manner. And it is for this reason that we also, in regard with the spectrum, we're calling on the various role players to add speed and urgency to their deliberations to find a solution to the issue of releasing the spectrum. In the development of industrial capacity, with regard to dealing with COVID-19, we've taken on this challenge, and we have responded in quite a creative manner as South Africa. We've already developed a good capacity to produce ventilators on a large scale. And with the production now of vaccines, we've also now moved to a higher level. About 25 million doses of the J&J vaccine was completed at the Aspen plant in the Eastern Cape. And more than half of these have been released to the market. Production is now mainly going to be for South Africa and the rest of our continent going forward. BioVac received a commitment from Pfizer and BioNTech from Germany to produce their vaccine in South Africa. And this is going to scale up to over a number of 100 million doses. And the South African firm is now getting ready to retool so that it can produce these vaccines. So capabilities have now been added to what we've been doing in the past. The country's localization campaign is showing results as well, beyond the COVID industrial products too. These range from production of pots, and pans, and a number of other products that also have to do with the automotive industry. Efforts have been made to enable SMEs and black industrialists to enter more industrial sectors of the economy, and our master plan rollout is gathering pace and momentum. These efforts have benefited from close collaboration with companies, business associations, and trade unions. Construction has started on a special economic zone to manufacture components for the auto industry in Tshwane, and the first 4 black-owned firms have been supported with money from the Auto Industry Transformation Fund. The new Mercedes-Benz model, made in Buffalo City, was launched in June of this year with higher local content, including in dashboard and vehicle panels, moldings. Toyota announced the production of the first green hybrid vehicle and retooling the factory for the first Corolla hybrid vehicle with a combination petrol and electric motor engine, with production expected in November of this year. So there has been progress, and progress continues. There continues to be significant demand on government to continue with and also to expand income support measures for those living in poverty. Further work needs to be done towards the achievement of the comprehensive social security to ensure that all South Africans can live in comfort and dignity. This necessarily requires better alignment and linkages between social security policies and labor market policies so that beneficiaries of social support can move more rapidly into employment. Subject to long-term affordability, serious consideration, the Lekgotla said, should be given to extending further support to the unemployed and to those who are structurally marginalized, possibly in the form of an extension of the COVID-19 Special Relief of Disaster Grant, targeted food poverty line support, or even we should consider a basic income grant. And we should also consider a combination of all this with mass employment that will create more work for our people. So all this will need to be considered, and it will be based on the affordability. We are taking steps to reduce the regulatory burden on small, medium, and micro enterprises. The Lekgotla stressed that this must be done without any further waste of time, because it is the small, medium enterprises that create and should create the most jobs. And currently, many players in the small, medium enterprise sector complained that they are strangled, they are debilitated by the burden of regulations, of a whole number of permitting system, and a whole number of fees that need to be paid when some of them want to trade, they want to make goods, and they want to provide service, and may not be able to navigate their way around the regulatory burden. In doing this and correcting this and repositioning small, medium enterprises, we will include informal traders, and we will make sure that they are not subjected to unfair regulatory requirements. Our fiscal constraints mean that we must set clear priorities, focus on measures which will have the greatest social and economic impact. Now, the Lekgotla also took time to discuss the issue of climate change, and felt and decided that climate change presents a range of geopolitical, security, economic, and social risks and opportunities for our country and the world. We must be resolute in ensuring that we engage with those risks that arise, but as well as the opportunities, in a manner that advances South Africa's national and developmental interests in all respects. Lekgotla said that transitioning to a low-carbon, ecologically friendly and socially sustainable economy presents opportunities to our country to create jobs. Some of them will be new jobs. It presents opportunities for inclusion and growth in some of the following sectors: in the renewable energy side, in the grid construction, in the manufacturing of renewable components, in battery storage, in green vehicles, and green hydrogen, while assisting us to further our environmental protection objectives. In this regard, the just energy transition proposed by Eskom presents, as we know, Eskom is the biggest supplier of energy, and the transition that Eskom has presented or proposed presents a possible immediate opportunity to reduce our CO2 footprint. It also presents us with an opportunity to increase our energy security by ramping up renewable generation and to take advantage of concessional financing for power station repurposing and explore ways to develop new jobs, new industries, and also foster economic inclusion. The Lekgotla welcomed the detailed planning Eskom has done for a just energy transition at one power station, ensuring that workers and the community will be assured and advanced of well-being, and that there will be a just transition there. The just transition also offers enormous potential for our mining sector, where we have advantages in the platinum, lithium, and other sectors. We will intensify work on the hydrogen economy, which includes hydrogen-powered fuel cell electric vehicles, where South Africa has a competitive advantage. Infrastructure development, the Lekgotla noted, is the backbone of economic progress. Lekgotla said, we must therefore aggressively expand social and economic infrastructure to meet the needs of the economy and the South African people at large. This includes new investments in renewable energy, mining, water and sanitation, roads and bridges, human settlements, health and education, the digital infrastructure, as well as public transport. To further strengthen the massive rollout of infrastructure, and Lekgotla said, we must increase community participation in a way that leads to skills development, that leads to small-medium enterprise participation, and the creation of employment for the affected communities where these projects will take place. Our infrastructure investments must anchor the one-plan approach of the district development model, and it must prioritize critical network infrastructure such as rural roads and bridges, water, energy, and digital infrastructure. The reconstruction, growth, and transformation of the South African economy depends on an efficient state that is developmental in orientation and capable in operation. The state, the Lekgotla said, must be able to lead. It must guide and mobilize all social partners towards common goals. The Lekgotla decided and affirmed that we must continue the work to professionalize the public service and strengthen ethical behavior, discipline, and adherence to a culture of service across all spheres. And this should particularly be highlighted and stressed during this Civil Service Month. We urge government to move faster in developing an insourcing framework and model. The Lekgotla observed that too many functions and services that should be performed by government are still outsourced. And we've just been increasing the number of functions that government should be performing and outsourcing them, to great detriment to the capacity of the state and capability of the state, but also to the workers who are often hired on temporary type of contracts by those who we outsource to. We agreed to institute more rigorous criteria for the appointment of senior managers, including at local government level. In addition, we must be more consistent in applying discipline and consequence management, both to recognize good performance and institute corrective action for poor performance. We have agreed to urgently finalize the work to put in place a single framework for the whole public service administration. This would set out a common wage policy. It would harmonize conditions of service. It will set norms and standards for human resource management. It will enable mobility within a single public service and inculcate a common culture of service delivery across the three spheres of government. The district development model is building on the lessons and the successes of its pilots, and further work is being done to support its greater integration into the work of all spheres of government. We continue to be hard at work to ensure that the district development model serves as a catalyst for greater cooperation amongst all spheres of government and eliminate the silo mentality and way of work in the delivering of government services, and ensuring local communities have adequate and sustainable access to the basic services that our people need, such as water, sanitation, electricity, and refuse removal. The district development model, Lekgotla noted, must act as a driving force for local economic development as well, through identifying comparative advantages and strategies for developing these on a district basis. In this regard, all levels of government must work together to ensure security of water and electricity to local businesses and maintenance of transport infrastructure, so as to create a conducive environment in our local areas to be able to attract businesses, to keep businesses operating in the local area. Because, as I've often said, investors don't invest their money at the union buildings. They invest at the local government level. And this is precisely where we must lay greater emphasis for creating a conducive environment for business to operate, to invest, and thus to create jobs. The Lekgotla recognized that the effective implementation of the district development model may require legislative reform and amendments to the intergovernmental relations framework, and urged the government to intensify work on this aspect. The Lekgotla said the ANC government must take heed from this Lekgotla and work more closely with the legislatures to ensure more active participation in all public representatives, members of parliament, members of provincial legislatures, and local government councillors in implementing the district development model, which we call the DDM. All of us, indeed all of society, agree with the assertion at this Lekgotla by the SACP and COSATU that society is tired of crime and corruption and the seeming inability of the state to decisively deal with this scourge. Efforts to strengthen the capacity of law enforcement agencies and security services continue. Citizens need to be confident that both the police service and the state intelligence agencies have the necessary capacity and resources to protect the people of our country. Structures of the movement and other civil society formations played a critical role in supporting the efforts of law enforcement agencies in responding to the violence and destruction in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng during the attempted insurrection in July. Communities were at the forefront in preventing the spread of violence to the rest of the country. This points to the need for consistent public activism against crime and corruption. It is our responsibility to ensure that there are wall-to-wall functioning community policing forums in the country. We note the progress the police and the NPA have made in arresting suspects and bringing them before the courts. while those that are responsible for organizing, coordinating, and inciting this violence must still be brought to book, our priority is to ensure that we do not allow such criminal behavior to recur. We therefore support the work of the panel of experts appointed by the President to review the preparedness and response of our intelligence and law enforcement agencies. What matters in security is not what you accomplish after the fact, but what we do to prevent it. The ANC is committed to putting in place additional measures to strengthen policing and security, both to protect economic infrastructure and networks, and also to create a conducive and orderly environment for economic growth and development. And we continue to engage social partners at NEDLAC on how the ban on politically exposed persons doing business with the state can be strengthened. We must condemn with the utmost contempt the cold-blooded murder of Babita Deokaran and all other whistleblowers. We urge law enforcement agencies to bring the perpetrators of these heinous crimes, including the masterminds, to book. A critical tool in combating corruption is ensuring protection of those who witness it, who report it, and who assist in combating it. We must make sure they know they will be protected and thanked for doing so, as they do the public a service when they come forward. We are part of an increasingly complicated and interconnected world, which is afflicted by many emergencies, ranging from armed conflicts to pandemics, to global warming, to cybercrime, to the displacement of people. In this regard, we must improve our readiness, the Lekgotla said, to meaningfully contribute to the process of enhancing regional and global common security. The ANC was urged by the Lekgotla to build strong alliances with progressive organizations worldwide that are based on shared values and ideals in the interest of entrenching such values in global affairs. The Lekgotla reaffirmed the movement and government's commitment to always placing the promotion of human dignity, democracy, and development at the center of our foreign policy. In this regard, the Lekgotla reaffirmed our active support for the freedom of the people of Palestine and of Western Sahara. The Lekgotla emphasized that peace and the silencing of guns in Africa is a critical project to the development of our continent. In this regard, and based on the respect and friendship that South Africa enjoys throughout our continent, government was urged to play an active role in the resolution of crises affecting a number of countries. The Lekgotla called for peace in the Sahel region and urged the junta leaders in Guinea-Conakry to return to barracks and release the president and restore peace, and called on the government of Ethiopia to find a peaceful resolution to the instability in the Tigray. The Independent Electoral Commission, IC, has just concluded its briefing about how it will give effect to the order handed down by the Constitutional Court this past Friday. We welcome the decision of the IEC to declare the weekend of the 18th and 19th of September as a registration weekend. And we agree with the IEC that there is an inextricable link between voter registration and the right to stand for public office. Section 19(3) of our Constitution provides that, and I quote, "Every adult citizen has the right to vote in elections for any legislative body established in terms of the Constitution, and to do so in secret, and also to stand for public office, and if elected, to hold office," close quotes. The ANC therefore further welcomes the decision to reopen candidate registration on 20th and 21 September. We believe this is in line with constitutional and legislative prescripts. So this we welcome. Let us all go out to serve our people and to improve the lives of the people of South Africa selflessly. The Lekgotla has given us a clear hymn book from which all of us can sing from. And we should now go forth and do so without contradicting one another, passing on one message through different voices, completely committed to the project that the African National Congress was formed for, to improve the lives of all South Africans. This is our task, this is our duty, and this we shall do and must do. I thank you very much, Comrade National Chairperson.